Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we dig through piles of research, reports, data. Basically, we do the heavy lifting so you don't have to.
Right. And we boil it all down to the key takeaways, the stuff you really need to know.
Exactly. And today we are tackling a huge one. Immigrant entrepreneurship. We're looking at the economic impact, but also, the integration side of things.
It's fascinating because we've got these pretty impressive stats from places like Harvard about economic power.
Huge numbers.
But then you contrast that with the messy reality. Systemic barriers, personal stories of frustration. It's quite the mix.
We've got data on U.S. businesses, local government guides, some sharp critiques of the whole successful immigrant story, and, powerful personal accounts from the U.S. and Canada.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Our goal here is, we want to get past the usual sound bites about immigration.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see the massive economic force immigrants represent, for sure. But just as important, maybe more important, is understanding the hurdles.
The bureaucratic stuff, the local biases, things that policy tries to fix or maybe doesn't fix well enough.
And these hurdles, they cost nations billions, and they cost people.
Well, they cost them their dignity sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the economics. The hard numbers, our sources are pretty clear on this.
Oh, absolutely.
When you look at who's starting new businesses, creating jobs in the U.S., immigrants are really punching above their weight.
The data is, it's definitive. Immigrants make up about a quarter, 25% of all new employer businesses in the U.S.
Quarter? That's significant.
Yes, and it's not static. It's been climbing. It went from just under 19% back in 2007 up to 24.2% by 2019-2020.
Wow. So a clear upward trend.
A very clear trend. It shows a huge chunk of new economic activity is driven by people born outside the U.S.
And it seems like the more innovative, the more high growth the sector, the bigger their footprint. Is that right? That's exactly what the data suggests, especially in high growth areas. Think about this globally. 3 of the top 10 most valuable public companies: Alphabet, NVIDIA, Tesla. Immigrant founders.
Right. Google, NVIDIA, Tesla. Huge names.
And in the private sphere, the really valuable venture-backed companies in the U.S. In 2022, 4 of the most valuable Faro had immigrant founders.
Okay, but let's narrow it down. What about the cutting edge, AI, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's where the numbers get, frankly, staggering. For leading AI startups, immigrants make up 44.5% of the founders.
Almost half.
Almost half. And for unicorns, the private company's valued over $1 billion. It's 40.8%. So immigrants aren't just starting businesses, they're starting these high-impact, high-value companies that really shape the future.
Now, what's really interesting here, the sources say this isn't just because immigrants happen to have, say, more advanced degrees on average than the U.S.-born population.
That's the key nuance, exactly. Immigrant-founded firms, they patent more, they innovate more. And yes, education levels, field of study, that explains some of it.
Okay.
But the studies show a big part of that innovation edge.
Yeah.
It's not explained by just education or field. There seems to be something else going on.
Something beyond the usual metrics.
Right. Some other driver for that entrepreneurial success.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me because we have this perfect case study of how policy, restrictive policy, can actually get in the way of this innovation.
You're talking about Jody Bansal.
Yes. Computer science grad from India gets to Silicon Valley on an H-1B visa.
Right. So he has the skills, the drive. He even has the billion-dollar idea bubbling up.
But the visa.
But the H-1B, it's designed for employees, right?
Yeah.
It let him work for someone, but it specifically stopped him from working for himself, from founding his own company.
A major roadblock. Just pure bureaucracy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he had to wait 7 years. 7 years just for the green card.
Think about that delay, the economic cost.
Yeah.
Probably impossible to calculate fully.
Totally. And what did he do the instant he got that permanent residency? Like literally the moment it came through.
He quit his job.
Immediately. Didn't even wait for all the final paperwork. Just quit and started AppDynamics.
Which Cisco then bought for. What was it?
An incredible $3.7 billion.
Billion, with a B.
Yep. And since then, Bansal started other companies, hired maybe 4,000 people altogether.
So his story just perfectly illustrates how policy friction doesn't necessarily stop innovation forever, but it sure can delay it or push it elsewhere.
Exactly. It just delayed its arrival domestically.
So Bansal's story, it's amazing persistence, right? He beat the bureaucracy eventually, but that friction, it doesn't just stop at visas. Let's pivot now.
Yeah, let's talk about what happens after arrival, the integration challenge, especially for really skilled people.
This is where we see that that integration paradox you mentioned earlier.
It becomes painfully clear. And our sources really highlight this through the Canadian experience, specifically Dapo Bankol's TEDx talk. It's powerful stuff.
Tell us about him.
Well, he arrived in Canada with 12 years of high-level IT experience, ready to work, highly qualified.
Okay. Sounds ideal.
But recruiters just kept ignoring him. The reason? He lacked Canadian experience.
Oh, that's the ultimate catch-22, isn't it?
It really is. How do you get Canadian experience if no one will hire you without it? It's soul-crushing, as you said.
And the result?
Tragic underemployment. You see stories, and Bankole mentions this too, of foreign-trained doctors driving for Uber or nurses waiting tables. People with incredible skills just sidelined.
What about Bankole himself?
His personal story is tough. He ended up working 3 minimum wage jobs simultaneously, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night.
3 jobs? Wow.
And wrestling with choices like, do I buy groceries this week or put gas in the car to get to those jobs?
Yeah.
He talked about feeling like a complete failure despite his qualifications.
The human cost is just immense.
Yeah.
But let's talk numbers again. The waste of talent on a national scale.
Okay, yeah, the economic cost. It should genuinely shock people. There's an estimate from the Royal Bank of Canada. They figure the cost of failing to integrate these skilled professionals, just the lost opportunity, the untapped potential, could be as much as $50 billion.
$1 billion every year.
Every single year. Lost.
Yeah.
Just because the systems, the hiring biases, they block qualified people.
That figure is just, it's staggering. So even if a country has open doors, welcomes immigrants with qualifications.
Right.
The consensus seems to be that what happens after they arrive, that integration piece, that's the really complex part. It takes way more than just individual grit.
Absolutely. It's systemic. You need changes in how foreign credentials are recognized, how experience is valued.
Yeah.
If you want to unlock that, $50 billion potential, you can't just be on the individual to fight the system alone.
Okay, so if the problem is systemic, the solutions need to be systemic too. Makes sense. Let's shift from that huge $50 billion problem to what's actually being done.
Right, the practical steps.
Our sources look at U.S. cities specifically and how local governments are trying to build support structures for newcomers, institutionalizing it.
Yeah, and this is actually quite hopeful. It shows that cities aren't always just waiting for federal action. They're building their own infrastructure.
So what are they doing? The sources lay out some core practices.
They do. About 5 key best practices that seem to be effective.
Okay, what's the first one?
It's pretty foundational.
Yeah.
Government leadership. Basically making immigrant integration a formal, permanent part of city government.
How? Like creating a specific office?
Exactly. Establishing an Office of Immigrant Affairs or an Office of New Americans. We see examples in Atlanta and Aurora, Colorado.
And these offices act as anchors.
Right. They ensure all city services, health, education, business support are actually accessible and welcoming to the foreign-born population. It's not an afterthought.
Okay, leadership first. What's next? Practical delivery.
Yep, inclusivity and access. This is about making sure the services are actually usable by everyone.
Language barriers, cultural differences.
Precisely. So implementing citywide language access policies. San Jose, Philadelphia are good examples there, making sure documents and services are available in multiple languages.
Makes sense.
And also cultural competency training for city staff. Burlington, Vermont has a program called We Belong, focused on this. It helps ensure interactions are respectful, understanding.
Good. Okay, third area, protective measures.
Legal support. This is crucial. Cities are creating networks so low-income immigrants can actually find and afford legal help. Houston's done work on this.
And sometimes even more direct support.
Yes, some cities have gone further, creating legal defense funds specifically for residents facing deportation. Los Angeles has the Justice Fund. New York has NYIFP. That's a significant city commitment.
Definitely. Okay, so we've covered structure, access, legal protection. What about the economic side? Getting people into jobs that match their skills, avoiding that Dapo Bankol's situation.
Right, that falls under socioeconomic support. This is where you see things like professional connector programs.
Like mentorships.
Sort of, but often more structured. The St. Louis Mosaic Project has one that specifically helps immigrants with foreign degrees find professional jobs in their field, bridging that experience gap.
Tackling the catch-22.
Exactly. And also things like financial literacy resources. Nashville's financial empowerment centers help newcomers navigate banking, credit, taxes, practical stuff.
Got it. And the last one, integrating into the community.
Civic participation. This is about helping newcomers become fully engaged citizens, not just encouraging voting, but actually helping with the citizenship process itself.
How?
Cities work with community groups like LA's Citizenship Corners and libraries to offer citizenship test preparation. NY Citizenship offers free legal help with the application, financial counseling, right there in public libraries.
So it's really about building a whole ecosystem of support.
Exactly. Institutionalizing it, making it reliable and accessible. That seems to be the most effective way to scale up successful integration.
All right, let's zoom out a bit now. Think big picture, the whole idea of the American dream and how new research is kind of shaking up some old myths about immigration.
Yeah, this comes from the research presented in Streets of Gold. They used a ton of data going way back to really test some common assumptions.
Like what myths are they tackling?
Well, one big one is this idea you sometimes hear that immigrants in the past, the good old days, were somehow harder working or more willing to assimilate than immigrants today.
Right, the sort of nostalgic view.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the data just doesn't support that. Historically, that comparison doesn't hold up when you look closely.
Interesting. What about economic mobility? How do immigrants fare across generations?
This finding is actually pretty positive, maybe even surprising to some. For over a century, the pattern is consistent. Children of immigrants tend to have higher rates of upward economic mobility compared to kids from similar U.S.-born families.
Higher rates, so they climb the ladder faster.
On average, yes. And here's a really crucial point from their analysis. This success for the children of immigrants doesn't seem to come at the expense of kids with U.S.-born parents.
Ah, so it's not a zero-sum game.
The data suggests not.
Yeah.
It points more towards, a rising tide lifting boats, shared opportunity rather than direct competition causing harm.
Okay, that's a more optimistic take based on the long view. So
Yeah.
what does all this mean for how we talk about immigrant success? We just spent time highlighting entrepreneurs, billion-dollar companies.
Right. The economic contributions.
Is there a downside to focusing so much on those numbers, those achievements?
Well, there's a really important critique here, sort of philosophical check, that comes from sociologist Adam Weitz in one of our other sources. He points out that while celebrating, say, Jody Bonsal's success or an immigrant winning a Nobel Prize seems positive and often is well-intentioned,
Sure.
focusing only on that economic utility, on what they produce or contribute, it runs the risk of being instrumentalizing.
Instrumentalizing. Meaning what, exactly? Treating people like tools.
Kind of, yeah. It means you end up valuing the immigrant primarily for their output, their GDP contribution, the jobs they create, rather than valuing them for their inherent human dignity.
Ah, I see. You value what they do, not who they are.
Exactly. It fails to place intrinsic worth on them as human beings. And that's a subtle but really important distinction. Because what happens if the economy tanks, or if an immigrant isn't a high achiever by those metrics?
The argument for welcoming them based on utility kind of falls apart.
Precisely. The instrumental argument loses its power. The deeper argument is about human dignity, regardless of economic output.
So the message becomes, we should welcome immigrants because they're human beings, full stop.
Yeah.
Not just because they might start the next Google or cure a disease.
That's the core idea. And Weiss points out that this human element is actually what resonates most deeply with people. Think about the image of Alan Kurdi.
The little Syrian boy on the beach.
Yeah, that single tragic human story, that image. It went global, and donations to refugee charities spiked dramatically, far more than any economic report could achieve.
So seeing that vulnerability, that shared humanity, that's what generates empathy, not just spreadsheets.
It suggests that empathy is triggered by recognizing human dignity, not just by calculating economic benefit. Hashtag outro.
So we've really seen two sides of the coin today, haven't we?
Definitely. A real contrast.
On one side, you have this undeniable economic powerhouse, immigrant entrepreneurs starting almost a quarter of new firms, creating these massive multi-billion-dollar companies.
An incredible engine for growth and innovation, no doubt about it.
But on the other side, you have these persistent, really costly systemic barriers.
Yeah, the visa delays that held back Jody Bonsall for 7 years, or that devastating $50 billion annual cost of underemployment in Canada, just letting talent go to waste. It really undermines all that potential.
And it's crucial to remember how Dapo Bankel's story turned around. It wasn't some top-down policy change initially.
Right. His breakthrough, going from those 3 minimum wage jobs back into his professional field, it came because a group of local professionals stepped up.
They offered mentorship.
Mentorship and sponsorship. That's key. They actively helped him navigate the system, made introductions, It was a human connection, a hand up, not just, a handout or abstract advice.
A professional hand, specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to maybe chew on.
Okay.
We talked about how the innovation advantage immigrants often bring isn't just about their education levels. The data suggests there's something else there, maybe persistence, maybe a particular entrepreneurial mindset, something beyond the usual skills checklist.
Right, that non-quantifiable factor.
So if that's true, what is that fundamental non-economic quality, that intrinsic drive, maybe that sheer resilience? What are we losing when we let highly skilled, motivated people remain stuck in underemployment?
Good question.
We need to recognize that, yeah, opening hearts and doors is important. That's maybe half the battle. But the real value, both human and economic, maybe that's unlocked when we also extend a professional hand. When we commit not just to welcoming, but to actively sponsoring talent and integrating people fully into our professional communities.
A powerful challenge to think about. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.